Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about DNA. We've been seeing a lot of, you know, uh, discussions around DNA. DNA is responsible for various diseases, right? We start blaming our ancestors, start blaming, oh, you know, diabetes or cardiovascular disease run in my family. So probably, we would also have that disease. Stop stop believing these claims. Even I've seen some doctors saying, heart disease due to link to your you know your genes. It is all absolutely wrong, right? Your DNA is not your destiny. DNA does not matter, right? So let us understand this. Every cell inside our body has a nucleus. Nucleus contains DNA molecules which is organized into genes. These genes contain standard operating procedures for how our body works. It's like a software, but there has to be a trigger point for or something, action or instruction for this software to work, right? So, so essentially, if you see from that perspective, your genes are static. It does not change during life. Yeah, there are certain mutations which happen during cell division and other processes, but your inbuilt cellular machinery is able to repair most of them. The mutations which survive is what result in genetic disorders, right? So these genetic disorders are called rare genetic disorders because they're rare. These genes have nothing to do with your lifestyle issues, your chronic diseases, right? So let me explain you why. You know, so all these genes are static. If you have to take, our body has same genes, we start with when we born, we start with a single cell, right? Right? Our eyes, our brain, our heart, our lungs have same genes, but all perform very different functions, right? It is not genes, but how those genes are being expressed. Some genes are underexpressed, some genes are overexpressed. If this was not the case, why do we have eyes on our face, not on our back, right? So these are certain, it is not about genes, but about expression of genes, and the expression of genes is impact, you know, everything, how your cells divide, work, extract energy, repair, fight, etc., right? So, so again, it is all depending how your genes expressed, which is impacted by the external triggers or the actions we do every day, right? So it is about the trigger points and which activates. How it happens is, when you're doing something, some action, eating food, maybe, stress, environment, a lot of these things which may activate certain genes. When they activate certain genes, the DNA is copied into RNA, right? And RNA, transforms the gene sequence into protein, which performs, inhibits, or activates various functions, right? And it is this protein this actions which causes expression in genes and which causes the conversion from DNA, RNA to protein, which may give you good things or bad things, which may keep you healthy or give you disease, right? So consider this: if you have, suppose you have tired, you're fatigued, so genes that encode for protein that tells you need to rest is increased. Similarly, when you are hungry, genes that encode for protein that send the signal to your brain that you're hungry is increased once you have eaten food, right? The expression of these genes goes down, right? So it is underexpressed once you are full. Similarly, so again, this is all expression of genes, right? And I'm going to explain the entire process, how the expression of genes causes disease, right? So when, and again, the most important part is the 99% of genes that are expressed inside our body are microbial, right? So we've seen number of microbial DNA testing companies, right, who are saying we can tell you which microbe is there, what is their diversity. It is not going to help because the name of the microbes does not matter. What matters is what they're doing, what functions they're performing, what genes they're expressing, what metabolites they are secreting, right? So a lot of as I mentioned, 99% genes that are expressed inside our body are microbial, right? So if you have an imbalanced gut or oral microbiome, right, these bacteria or fungi or viruses or yeast would overexpress certain genes that encode for protein that leads to release or production of certain pro-inflammatory molecules, right? And which causes inflammation, which causes disease, right? So, so how it happens is, when you are eating certain foods which you may assume to be healthy, right? And again, a lot of these foods are metabolized by a microbiome because your body's ability to metabolize a lot of food is limited by the virtue of how much genes they are expressing on, and these cells. So 57% of cells inside our body are microbial and 99% genes expressed in our body are microbial. So a lot of these functions perform these microbiome, right? So when you eat this food, there's hundreds of thousands of molecules which you are ingesting. These molecules hit your gut, and these microbes consume these foods and convert into certain, byproducts. So when it comes to genes expression, so there's an interaction between these molecules and your microbes, which may lead to, expression of certain genes, either good genes or virulence genes, right? If it is virulence genes, it leads to production of certain pro-inflammatory molecules, which uh, makes your immune system overactive, right? And when it makes your immune system overactive, you know, uh, what happens is, you know, there's an uh, immune system response. Again, it can be in blood clotting response, it can be inflammatory response. It all depends upon immune cells receptor, what we call the inflammasomes. Now, inflammasomes decide, what actions or what has to be done if it is inflammatory response or blood clotting response or some other response, right? In that respect, it actually activates certain enzymes, which leads to upregulation of pro-inflammatory molecules, which leads to onset and progression of various chronic diseases, right? So you see, there's an your when you're there's certain external triggers, it activates certain genes. Your DNA is copied into RNA. RNA transform your genes into your protein. Protein inhibits, activates, or performs certain functions. So that is what this is the expression of gene, which is this the protein performing certain function and inhibiting certain function may lead to certain uh, production of harmful metabolites, where a lot of these things are done by a microbiome. So if you're since the 99% of genes expressed inside our body and are microbial, right? So when we eat something, a lot of external trigger caused by the food we eat. When we eat something, the interaction between food and microbiome may lead to expression of certain genes, which may trigger production of certain pro-inflammatory molecules, which will, you know, uh, activate the immune system. Immune system, they can be inflammatory response, blood clotting response, or any other response. Then it comes the role of these immune cell receptors called inflammasomes. Inflammasomes actually determine what action has to be taken if the inflammatory response. It and then it activates certain enzymes which lead to upregulation of pro-inflammatory molecules like cytokine, chemokines, and all, and which causes onset and progression of the disease, right? So that is how genes expression plays a key role, and microbiome, plays a key role in expressing, overexpressing, underexpressing certain genes, right? So DNA, do not blame your DNA. Your genes are not responsible for your chronic diseases, right? It is about the expression of genes based on the actions you do every day, right? And now we have all science and technology in place to understand the expression of the genes, whether it is microbial or human, and understand what is making us develop a disease. Unfortunately, none of the current set of clinical grade tests can decode these pro-inflammatory molecules, which are invisible, right? So essentially, when these pro-inflammatory molecule are being produced, being upregulated over a year and year, 8, 5, 10, 15 years, and then after the symptoms starting showing up, and then we go to a doctor to suppress those symptoms by through a pharmaceutical approach, right, or through fat diets, right? So essentially, uh, we at Gene Freakletics is the only company in India actually focus on the functions and the genes expression of the microbiome. Gut, oral, vagina is the three set of microbiome we are decoding. We are also coming up with skin and scalp microbiome, right? So we can determine these upregulation of pro-inflammatory molecules, the metabolites being secreted by a microbiome, and then we can actually help you, even prevent you from developing from disease from developing by just personalizing nutrition as medicine. So do not fall for these fat things that you have bad genes, right? Lifestyle is nothing to do with your genes, right? That's the only message I want to convey. Thanks. Have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.